Everybody get their phones off? Y'all make sure y'all can. Oh, I'm glad I mentioned it. Look at everybody going in. Don always thinks I'm talking about her, but I'm not.
It is. Trust me.
Oh man. We're live? All right.
Are we live?
We are live. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to a special 100th episode celebration of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the new Stoudemire Wellness Hub inside of Eastside Community Network. Authentically Detroit is powered by Eastside Community Network and sponsored by the Ford Foundation, a content partner to BridgeDetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the east side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. We drop a new episode every week, so be sure to turn on those notifications. Today, we are happy to bring to you the long-awaited District 4 City Council candidate debate. This debate is brought to you in partnership with BridgeDetroit.com and the Stoudemire Wellness Hub, housed right here inside of Eastside Community Network. There's a small audience here, and they have promised to remain silent throughout the duration of tonight's debate, except for right now. Please help us welcome the candidates for District 4 City Council seat, M.L. Elrick and Leticia Johnson.
For tonight's debate are simple. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give 2-minute opening remarks uninterrupted. We will direct questions to candidates and they will have 90 seconds to respond. We will allow for 30-second rebuttals if a candidate makes a claim at another candidate if time permits. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for closing remarks.
All right, tonight's debate will cover the following topics: American Rescue Plan, financial allocations, recreation, environmental sustainability, city services, planning and development, and public safety. We flipped a coin to determine who gets to go first in their opening remarks, and Leticia Johnson gets to go first. Leticia, you have 2 minutes for your opening remarks.
Good evening, and thank you all so much. Thank you to Authentically Detroit for having us. I appreciate you all for being here. I am Leticia Johnson, a proud native Detroiter. Grew up on the east side of Detroit and have been here since I was 8 years old. I'm a graduate of Caron High School in 1993, went on to the University of Michigan to receive a finance degree. I have worked in corporate America in finance. I've also worked to bring jobs, secure jobs in Detroit by negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts for the hospitality and tourism industry. For the last 14 years, I've been a very active neighbor in the community. For the last 7 years, I have been volunteering on a full-time basis to start and run a nonprofit community development corporation where I work to address the needs of the people. My goal and focus is to continue doing that work, but on a greater scale, making sure that we address the water infrastructure issues, making sure that we take a look at quality affordable housing throughout the district, making sure that I am accountable to all of District 4 residents, and making sure that we can reduce crime together. I continue to be here fighting on the ground and look forward to working with all of you as we work to move our communities forward throughout District 4. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leticia. M.L. Elrick, your opening remarks. You have 2 minutes.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having us, Orlando and Donna. Congratulations on the 100th episode of Authentically Detroit. And thanks everybody for coming out tonight and for watching. It's weird to be against Leticia because we know each other. We both have served in our neighborhood association. Our kids have gone to school together. We've both been working for the community since we got here. You probably know me from TV. Here's what you don't know. I have deep roots in the community. My great-grandfather built a house on Algonquin. If you're looking for it, there's an Elrick for Detroit sign in front of it. My grandmother built or lived in a house on Camden when she used to commute to clean houses in Grosse Pointe. That was my Irish granny. And when I moved in 1999 to my house on Outer Drive, it wasn't very long before I became very active in my community. You've heard about me cutting lawns as the East Outer Drive street rep, and I'm happy to help keep the neighborhood tight. But I've been a coach at Baldwin Park. I've been a coach at Mesmer Park. I've been a mentor. I've been a chaperone for my kids' school trips. I've been a sleepaway cabin leader. And let me tell you something, that can be something with the little kids there when you got a bunch of middle school kids in a cabin. But it's all about giving back to the community, and that's why I'm doing this. Because it feels to me like Detroit has given me everything, and it's my opportunity to give back. I had to give up my job to do this because you can't be a reporter and a politician. But we need somebody who's going to fight for us. We need somebody who's going to bring all those things from downtown back to the east side. We need somebody who's going to fight for honest change, to get the corruption out of our politics. We need somebody who's going to bring opportunity, safety, and accountability to Detroit, to make our streets safe so the kids can play and old people can put their garbage out without getting run over. We need somebody who listens, who knows how to tell a story, who knows how to communicate, who knows how to keep us informed, and who has plans and policies. I have a policy to improve police. I have a policy to stop the flooding and to clean up government. That's just some of where I'm coming from. That's just some of what we're talking about. We're going to hear more about that through the rest of this evening. And I thank you for tuning in and for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot the mic. Thank you. So M.L., this first question goes to you first, and then to Leticia. Again, you each have 90 seconds to respond. What is your reaction to the mayor's ARPA plans? Did he get it right? And if not, what would you change?
Yeah, so I don't think he got it right. And I told him that the first time he had a hearing. There is not enough money going to neighborhood stabilization. There's not enough money to help our seniors repair their homes. I just outlined some of the benefits of this plan on next door for seniors to get their roofs put on. It's a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But $30 million does not go very far. And when I talk to people, and I've been knocking on doors since January, they tell me they need help staying in their homes. People on a fixed income need to fix their homes. I think Latisha and I will both tell you there's a lot of porches in this town that need to be fixed. And the problem is that money is not going to go far enough. And we can't afford to have Detroiters who have been through everything we've been through for the last 20, 30, 40 years leave. New people are coming, I think that's great, because we're making a city that people want to come to. But if we lose our legacy Detroiters, the people who have invested, the people who have made this city what it is that people want to come to, that is a tragedy. So I think we need to increase that money. I also think we need to increase assistance to businesses that want to open. 71% of our businesses in Detroit are micro businesses, meaning 9 employees or less, meaning annual revenues of $250,000 or less. But here's what's good about little business. It's our neighbors. It's people who we live with, people who we go to school with, people who we maybe have a beer with. We need to help keep that money and that energy and economic revitalization right here in our city. And the mayor said, where are you going to get that money? If you're going to take money and put it somewhere else, I said, take the $50 million out of the internet thing, because we can get the corporations to provide us free internet. We need that money to open our businesses and keep people in their homes.
Thank you. Leticia, what is your reaction to the mayor's ARPA plan? Did he get it right? And if not, what would you change? 90 seconds.
So I don't believe he got it right. One of the first things I would have done differently is to spread out the community meetings that were hosted so that we could get more information out and get more people involved in the discussion. With over 100,000 people in District 4, there were 176 people that attended the District 4 meetings around how we spend those ARPA funds. We only had 109 people in the district that completed the survey. That's not reflective of the community to be able to say how we should spend those dollars. I agree with M.L. in that the $30 million that was earmarked for home repairs, not enough. We know that originally it was $20 million, and then City Council pushed to add an additional $10 million. We've been without grant funding to help maintain our properties for so long that we have properties that are in decay. We have residents that are seniors, many who retired from the city of Detroit, that need that additional assistance to maintain their homes. And I agree, it's roofs and it's porches that need to be addressed. I would call on these billionaires, the billionaire companies, to triple what the city has put forth to address roofing issues. So I definitely believe that we should have at least $100 million to address roofing and porches.
Thank you so much, Latisha. My next question for you, Latisha, is have you gauged resident priorities on ARPA spending in your engagements in District 4? If so, what are you learning?
So most people know that I attend a lot of community meetings throughout the district. The overwhelming conversation that's been had around the ARPA funds are addressing home repairs. Addressing home repairs because it's been so long since we've had funding, and making sure that residents can remain in our houses. Many of our houses are 100 years old. It's very costly. Wayne State University did a study that talked about how much it costs to maintain our homes, and that's extremely important. We have to stop the bleed. We have to make sure that we stop tearing down houses and that we work to retain houses so that we can improve public safety, because the way you improve public safety is you make sure that we have occupied housing. It's time out for demolishing structures. It's time to improve stabilization within our communities, and we do that first and foremost with housing.
Thank you, Leticia. M.L, the same question is for you. Have you gauged resident priorities on ARPA spending in your engagements in District 4? And if so, what are you learning?
Absolutely. I've knocked on 2,000 doors, and there's almost one voice that's crying out: clean up the neighborhoods, stop the speeding. There's not enough money going into more and better police. So we have people who can stop the speeding, who can be community police officers, who can be people who know us so that we don't have to rely on technology like green light and shot spotter and all these things that you put money into because you don't put money into human beings. No speed hump, and I support speed humps because I've been on outer drive and I'm sick of the speeding myself. But no speed hump can watch out for a kid or know whether somebody's fallen on their porch or whether the door's been kicked open. But the other thing is blight. There's not enough money in here to, first of all, get people in houses and rehab. And I was on Lang on Friday. 4 of the people I met on one block were not there 4 years ago. They moved into homes, they're beautiful homes. You could not tell those homes from homes where people have been there for 20 or 30 years. We need to help people get in these homes, get the money to renovate them, and then we need to get rid of the blight. Now, how do you do that? There's some homes that just can't be saved. Those got to come down now. My campaign, I'm telling you this, is an unemployed dude who has no clout in City Hall, can't put anybody in the paper, can't put a man on TV. We got a house torn down for Ms. Taylor, who's here tonight, just because I know how to get things done in City Hall. That's one house for an unemployed guy. You put me on City Council with 1 of 9 votes, we'll get all the bad houses down, and the good ones will bring families back to the city. M.L, how do you plan to increase transparency at City Hall in spending of taxpayer dollars in city government? So, you know, as a former reporter, I've had a little problem with transparency in City Hall, and I've gotten some information that didn't come through proper channels because the channels aren't proper, they don't work right. Let me tell you how I personally will increase transparency. If you're asking for a city record and you're requesting from my office, you're going to get it. I'm not going to make you file a FOIA. I'm not going to make you wait 3 weeks. I'm not going to make you hire a lawyer. I'm not going to run you around till you get tired and give up. Now, I am going to redact some information like somebody's social security number or some things that might expose somebody's privacy or put them at risk. But I will be the transparency councilman. I've been chasing bad guys out of City Hall who weren't transparent. I walk the walk. And if you want to get a city record that I can get my hands on, I'm going to do it. And when I talk to people about budgets, and we talk about the law department budget, and they say we got 1 or 2 lawyers who are working on FOIAs and freedom of information requests, the city acts like your access to documents is something they do whenever they got spare time, whenever they can spare a lawyer who's not good at winning lawsuits. It should be a priority. Your access, your right, the documents that tell people what's happening with our government, that is not the last thing on my list of things to do. It's pretty near the first. All right, thank you. Latisha, how do you plan to increase transparency at City Hall and spending of taxpayer dollars in city government?
So before I answer that question, can we do a little rebuttal on the last response?
Yeah, you got 30 seconds.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I can't say whether or not my opponent had a house demolished, but what I do know is that Proposal N that was passed in 2019, there were $250 million earmarked for demolishing houses. and we are seeing those houses being demolished now. The house that my opponent had demolished was on the demolition list since 2019.
Can I rebut that?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor, was the house next to you knocked down?
It was knocked down?
And you've been trying to knock it down for 10 years?
Yes.
What did they told you before I made some phone calls?
They gave me different numbers to call.
Yeah, they gave me the runaround. You can't hear Ms. Taylor because I got the microphone. She tried for 10 years to get it knocked down. I called the land bank. They said it's secure. It's not going to be knocked down. It's boarded up. I said it's not boarded up. They said we'll put the boards back up on. I said, well, let me show you some pictures of the roof in the back. There's a hole in the roof. You can't board up a hole in the roof. Within 3 months,
Thank you,
it
ML.
was gone.
Thank you, M.L. Latisha, your question is, once again, how do you plan to increase transparency at City Hall and the spending of taxpayer dollars in city government?
So there's been a lot of discussion around the city clerk's office. The city clerk's office that maintains the records for city council. It is extremely difficult to get information out of the city clerk's office. I'm proposing that we have on the website, on the city's website, access to all information, making sure that we have budgetary information on the site, that we have actual numbers of what was spent for every department so that people can see how much money was earmarked for the departments and how much money was actually spent within the departments. I think one of the things that we find difficult is really understanding where dollars are going in the city. So we all just saw that the state of Michigan provided $3.7 million to the city of Detroit for individuals who have water backups. And the city's response was that they had spent the money on sanitizing and cleaning basements. The city was already doing that work before those dollars were earmarked by the state. So we need to make sure that that $3.7 million went to what the city said it went for, but also making sure that the state gets a report back from the city on where they spent those dollars, because those dollars were specifically earmarked for residents who had backups in their basement.
Thank you, Latisha. You have the next question. You go first on the next question, and that is, from your perspective, what are the most pressing issues in District 4? You have 90 seconds.
So one of the pressing issues I see is quality affordable homes. Making sure that Detroiters in particular have access to home ownership, making sure that Detroiters can afford to maintain their properties. And so within that, jobs. We need jobs within our neighborhoods that people can easily access, because we know transportation is an issue for a number of our residents. Making sure that residents have access to good quality food. So many people throughout District 4 cannot walk to a grocery store. They can't bike to a grocery store. So I think it's important to make sure that we have farms within our community that we can grow crops within our community and provide that to residents within the neighborhoods. I also think it's extremely important that we have recreational centers. Recreational centers so we can keep our young people off of the streets and give them access to programming that helps them to become productive citizens. That's one thing that we can do to help reduce crime. If we just provide positive programming for our young people, if we provide mental health resources for people that have mental health illnesses, there are a number of things that we need to do, and it's really all about addressing the needs of the people.
Thank you, Latisha. M.L, same question for you. From your perspective, what are the most pressing issues in District 4? You got 90 seconds.
Sure, I'm going to say it all night. Opportunity, safety, and accountability. We need to have neighborhoods where we can work, shop, dine, and play within walking distance of our homes. When I got my first job at Johnson's Milk Depot on Mac in 1983, all those storefronts were full. When I worked at the Sherwin-Williams at Kensington and East Warren when I was in high school, all those storefronts were full. We all shopped down the street. We all worked in the neighborhood. And we could go to bars and restaurants on either side. So we have to have that. Now, why don't we have that? Because we don't have somebody fighting for us. For too long, we've had somebody going downtown, and the only money brought back to the east side was a paycheck and a city car. I want to stop the free city cars for city council members. Hopefully we can talk about that in a little while. But let me tell you something. I'm a veteran union negotiator. Whenever a deal comes before my council office, if you want something for downtown, for the west side, for Midtown, for Corktown, you gotta give me something. This is how it works. Something for you, something for me. But me is you, it's us. It's bringing something back to the east side. I wanna see downtown flourish, I wanna see all the neighborhoods flourish. But we can't keep voting for projects for other neighborhoods and not bringing anything back for us. Vote for me and that's gonna change.
Okay, Latisha, M.L, from your perspective, a large section of the Conner Greenway was closed and given to FCA Stellantis, replacing a berm and green vegetation for the wall. Should the Greenway be replaced and rerouted, and if so, how?
Absolutely. So when you have major industrial projects and you lose green space, if you're out in the country, if you lose wetlands, it's understood. I think it's actually required by law. They have to replace it. So any green thing that was taken away to create that plant needs to be replaced. Now, I don't live on Beneteau. I live on East Outer Drive. I think to answer that question, we need to bring the people who are most affected by this, the people who use that space, the people who live near there and say, what do you want brought back? But there's no way you can take away green space and replace it with gray space, with concrete. Part of my plan to stop the flooding is to turn our vacant lots into rain gardens, like the one at Hampton, Southampton, and Newport. And so this vacant land we have, we can repurpose this, but we have to replace any green space we've lost. The best way to do that, the first idea should come from the people who are affected. Now I'm happy to lead that effort. I'm happy to bring people together. I'm happy to convene people. Again, I'm a union official. When I joined my union, membership was 25%. By the time I left, it was 90%. I can bring people together. I can give us a common purpose, and together we can get something done. That's working for you. But here's the other part that's important. It's working with you.
Right. Letitia, a large section of the Conner Greenway was closed and given to FCA Stellantis, replacing a berm and green vegetation with a wall. How should the Greenway be replaced, and if so, and rerouted, and if so, how?
Absolutely, the Greenway should be replaced and rerouted, because right now, as it's been indicated, you know, this brick wall, it's not doing a lot. It's not doing a lot. We know we've seen odor violations as a result of the paint shop at FCA. We need to put in some green infrastructure. I am familiar with the $800,000 that Stellantis FCA is bringing into the community to be able to replace it and reroute it. I think it's extremely important to make sure that the voice of the community is heard as we look to address how you do that. And so I think, you know, that's what we have to do. We have to listen to residents in the community, as I've done over the last 14 years, and help to elevate their voices, help to make sure that how they see living, working, and playing in their community comes to fruition.
Thank you, Latisha. Our next question is for you. Detroit was hit hard back in June of 2021 with flooding, but residents in District 4 have been holding their breath every time it rains since about 2014, especially in neighborhoods like Jefferson Chalmers. So how do you plan to address flooding in District 4? Please be specific, and how will you pay for it?
So my plan has always been multifaceted. So one of the things I think we need to do is make sure that our sewer lines are cleaned out, because the city has neglected vacuuming out the sewer lines for so many years. It's reduced capacity because we have a lot of gunk that's built up within those lines. We need to make sure that there are no collapsed lines, and that the city is addressing that, so putting the camera through the system and identifying where there are collapsed lines. The city has already started doing that, and putting a liner within the collapsed lines to make sure that everything is flowing properly. We all know that the pumping stations failed in June. The Great Lakes Water Authority has a capital improvement plan that is to address the pumping stations, to replace the pumping station at Conner Creek. Will that take too long before water continues to back up in our basements? They have the money now to get started, so it doesn't have to take too long. The city also receives $50 million a year from the Great Lakes Water Authority to maintain and improve the infrastructure. We need to get to cleaning those lines immediately. So the dollars are present to do the work. We have to make sure we're putting in long-term fixes, solutions for the water infrastructure system, and not putting a Band-Aid on anything.
Thank you, Leticia. M.L, the same question is for you. Detroit was hit hard back in June with flooding, but every time it rains since 2014, residents in District 4 have been holding their breath. How do you plan to address flooding finally in District 4? Please be specific, and how will you pay for it?
Sure. This is a very personal issue. When the rain started falling and didn't stop, we got 2.5 feet of water in my basement. I lost projects that my kids had done when they were real small. I lost things that had been left to me by my grandparents. I'm a guy who saves letters and photos. They're all gone. And what was the city's answer? Once in 500-year flood. I think it was actually twice in 7 years. So maybe that last 496 years went real fast, but we're just going to move past that. What we did that day, because I am a problem solver, because I do know how things work in City Hall, and I do know who has the answers, we started making phone calls. And by midnight, on June 26th, we announced a plan calling for DWSD and GLWA to provide backflow preventers at their expense to all of our homes. Also to provide sump pumps, so when the water comes in, it goes right back out. After doing a little more research, because remember, we came up with a plan in 24 hours. It's now a plan that the city is trying to implement, by the way. We call for green infrastructure, using the vacant land around us to help provide a place to hold that water that their system can't hold, because we don't have time to rebuild a new system. We need to keep our basements dry now, because when I go down the basement, I see nothing. And guess what? That's a good thing, because I expect to see water, and we can't have that. People in Jefferson Charles have been putting up with this for 40, 50 years. It has to stop now. We have a plan, and I've been going to DWSD, GLWA meetings every week to make sure that they know we're fed up.
And so many of our residents have continued to face water backups since June 26th. I'm not a proponent of spending $600,000 to install backflow preventers in the 200,000 houses that we have in the city of Detroit. I think it's a Band-Aid. It's something that will not solve the problem. I have spoken to residents in Victoria Park, and they say they didn't see flooding in their basements until 2011, when the Great Lakes Water Authority took over our system. We have to address the infrastructure issues.
If I may?
Yes.
So you said it would be $600,000. What was it to put the backflow preventers in there?
It's roughly $3,000 per house, and if every house in the city of Detroit receives one, then that's $600,000. I mean, 600 million, sorry.
Well, so the last flood we had in 2014, DWSD and GLWA spent $250 million to make people whole, except they didn't. They only gave us a little bit of the money that we lost. And now they're going to spend that much more because we have 32,000 claims. To me, we spend what it takes to fix the problem. And guess what? It's cheaper to fix the problem than to put us through all this trauma, to see all our neighbors move away and then have to pay for it anyways. We need to invest in Detroiters. We need to invest in each other's.
Thank you.
And I'll continue to say that's not a fix.
I have a follow-up question to ask regarding that. Has anybody heard, I apologize if this is uncomfortable, has anybody heard anything about the Northwest Interceptor and the impact of the Northwest Interceptor, or the Oakland-Macomb Interceptor, and the impact of the Oakland-Macomb Interceptor on some of the flooding problems? If so, what is your analysis, and what do you think about doing anything regarding that? And I'll start with you. I believe, Leticia, you answered first, and so Leticia, and then M.L, and then we'll go back to our schedule.
Sure. So yes, I am familiar with it, and we've realized that the more populated Macomb and Oakland counties become, the more of a negative impact that receptor has on Detroit. The proposal really is, and I've talked to the Plumbers Union, who's given me advice and suggestions on how to address this system. It is to make sure that the Great Lakes Water Authority and collectively that we as a region push for them to have more retention basins within their county. so that it retains their wastewater, so that when we have inclement weather and we are facing 3 inches of rain in a short period of time, it does not overwhelm our system, causing the backups that we've seen. That within itself is a highly politicized issue, but we have to get past it unless we want to displace residents in the city of Detroit, and particularly off the water.
Thank you. M.L, have you heard of the ultimate home interceptor? And if so, what are your thoughts about proposals to address that concern?
Sure. My understanding from talking to a former water department engineer is the real problem is the interceptor they didn't build. That would have alleviated a lot of this problem. That would have taken this water that we can't handle on this end of the system out of the system. But here's the problem. We don't have it. So we need to come up with a solution. Converting vacant land into green infrastructure, into bioswales, into rain gardens, into retention ponds is not a Band-Aid. It's a solution. It's a cheap, affordable, expedient solution to get this solved now. We can fight with Great Lakes Water Authority for the next 10 years. We can get tied up in court. We can do all that stuff. In the meantime, it's going to keep raining, and the next 500-year flood may be next month. We need to get working on solutions right now. And if you want to join the solution, go to change.org. You will find a petition there. 1,000 of our neighbors have signed it that outline our plan to stop the flooding now. We would love to have you sign that, because when I go to those board meetings, and I'm the only one who goes to those board meetings, I'm telling them we're not going away until you solve this problem. And if you think I'm going to go away before our problems are solved, I guess you haven't read my work, I guess you haven't seen me. Because I'm not just a watchdog, I'm a bulldog. And anybody who messes with you, I'm going to chew their leg off.
Thank you, M.L. Because this is such a pertinent issue to our community, I just have one follow-up question, and then we're going to go back. And that is, are you proposing that we do green infrastructure in communities like Jefferson Chalmers and Jefferson Village, which are floodplains? Do you have evidence that green infrastructure will work in those communities? And if not, what are you proposing for those communities which are most heavily impacted by the floods?
So I'm first?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Yes, I mean, we already see, so if you're watching this, District 4, the east side, is a big sprawling district. We have wonderful neighborhoods up by City Airport. We have wonderful neighborhoods down by the canals. Jefferson Chalmers is already turning vacant land into paradises. There are gardens there, there are farms there. Everything that we're calling for is happening right there. But part of the problem is the water goes through us down there. We have land within walking distance here that we could convert to green infrastructure and take that pressure off the system so that when it whooshes and rushes past us down to Jefferson Chalmers, they don't have more than they can handle. And yes, we need to fix the pumps. And yes, we need to fix the pumping stations. And I was the one who found out that the pumps were not working like they should be. And I told people about that. And I went to the Great Lakes Water Authority meetings, and I went to the DWSD meetings. I said, you need to have redundancy with your power supplies. You can't allow those pumps to go down, because when you screw up, we pay the consequences. And if you want to stop Detroit from being depopulated, the mayor talks about wanting more people. Let's start with keeping people. Let's start with giving people a reason to stay here. And one way to do that, take the vacant land, make it beautiful, and keep our basements dry.
Okay, I'm sorry, Leticia. Leticia, do you believe that green infrastructure will address the flooding problems in Jefferson Chalmers and Jefferson Village, 2 neighborhoods which are currently flood zones?
I believe that it can help, yes. So we know that right outside of, on the west side of FCA, they have a bioswale there. So Veneto did not get impacted the way some of the other communities did throughout District 4. But we also know that the parking lot at FCA did get flooded. So that speaks to how much green infrastructure do we need to have in order to prevent the backups that we've seen. It would take a ton. I have, for 3 years, help to disseminate information to our residents on ways that we can help retain water. I've been encouraging residents to install rain gardens, to install rain barrels, bioswales, and things of that nature. So it isn't new to me. I think it will help, but of course we need to make sure we address the actual infrastructure. And as we have this inclement weather, the bioswales, the rain barrels, the rain gardens, those things can help take water out of the system and keep it from our basements. But we also want to make sure that we are not oversaturating our soil and seeing trees and things topple over. So it's a complex situation, but there are multiple things that need to be done in order to prevent the situations from continuing to occur.
If I could have a brief rebuttal?
Sure, go for it.
And I don't know if it's technically rebuttal, but I think what you've heard is we agree on a lot of the solutions. And so I invite you to join me at those board meetings to call on these folks who are not acting fast enough. Let's get it going.
I'm looking forward to being a council person and pushing them to do it. So we'll agree, we'll work together then.
Well, I'm not waiting.